You handed your pack to a stranger. You didn't think twice. They held it outside a bar in Logroño while you used the bathroom. You'd known them for 6 hours. You hadn't even seen their face before yesterday morning, and it didn't occur to you to hesitate. At home, you wouldn't leave your bag unattended on a cafe chair. You lock your car. You don't make eye contact with strangers on the train. You keep your cards close and your trust closer. But on the Camino, something entirely different happens. Something you can feel, but probably haven't been able to explain. And the science behind it is going to change how you think about every stranger you've ever walked past. Most people assume the Camino is simply a safe place, that the people who walk it are inherently trustworthy, that there is something self-selecting about the kind of person who packs their life into a bag and walks 800 kilometers. And that is partly true, but it doesn't explain why your trust extends so quickly, so deeply, and so specifically to people you have known for hours rather than years. It doesn't explain why you told that stranger things you've never told your closest friends, why you followed them down an unmarked path in the fog without a second thought. Something else is happening out there, and once you understand it, you will never look at a stranger the same way again. Dr. Paul Zak at Claremont Graduate University has spent 2 decades studying the neurochemistry of trust. His research centers on a single molecule, oxytocin. You may know it as the bonding hormone, the chemical released during physical touch, during eye contact, during genuine moments of social connection. What Zak discovered is that oxytocin is not released randomly or generously. It is triggered by specific and precise social conditions, and the single most powerful of those conditions is shared vulnerability. When two people face genuine uncertainty together, when neither of them knows what comes next, when both of them are exposed in some real and uncontrollable way, the brain reads the situation as one requiring trust, and it responds by releasing oxytocin into the bloodstream. Think about what that means on the Camino. Every single day, you face shared uncertainty with the person beside you. You don't know if the albergue at the next stage will have a bed. You don't know if your body will carry you to the end of the day. You don't know if the weather is about to turn or if the path marked on the map matches the path on the ground. And neither does anyone else. That shared not knowing is not a minor inconvenience. It is the exact neurochemical trigger that makes deep trust between strangers possible. Your brain isn't being reckless when it trusts the person beside you on the trail. It is responding to a signal it evolved over hundreds of thousands of years to respond to. Shared danger means shared stakes. Shared stakes means the person next to you has the same interest in your survival as in their own. The Camino, without intending to, has recreated the conditions that produce the oldest and most reliable form of human trust. But the speed of it, that still requires an explanation. Professor Robin Dunbar at Oxford University has spent decades studying how human social bonds actually form and what makes them durable. His research into what he calls the bonding behaviors, the rhythmic, physical, synchronized activities that social primates have always used to create and maintain group cohesion, produced a finding that seems simple until you sit with it. Walking together is one of the most powerful bonding mechanisms available to human beings. Not walking side by side in silence, not walking with headphones in, tolerated presence rather than shared experience. Walking together, at the same pace, across the same terrain, sharing the same horizon, responding to the same obstacles. The synchrony of movement signals something profound to the human brain. Two people moving at the same pace through the same landscape are, neurologically speaking, beginning to merge their threat assessment. They are treating the world as a shared problem rather than two separate ones. The brain registers that synchrony not as coincidence, but as alliance. On the Camino, you walk with people for hours, sometimes for days. You match their pace or they match yours. You stop at the same viewpoints. You climb the same hills in the same rain. The bonding is not only happening in the conversations, though those matter enormously. It is happening in the walking itself, in the simple and ancient rhythm of moving through the world together. And then there is the question of the mask. Psychologist Brené Brown's research on vulnerability and human connection found something that most of us resist believing. The people we come to trust most deeply are not the ones who appear strong, polished, and in control. They are the ones who allow us to witness their struggle, who admit they don't know, who let their exhaustion show. At home, we hide those things. We perform competence. We manage how we appear to colleagues, to neighbors, to acquaintances. The social cost of being seen as struggling, uncertain, or in need is high enough that most people maintain the performance almost continuously. On the Camino, the performance becomes impossible to sustain. Your body tells the truth. Your blisters are visible. Your exhaustion is written on your face by kilometer 18. You cannot pretend to be fine when you clearly are not. And neither can anyone else. Brown calls this a vulnerability equalizer. When everyone around you is equally exposed, equally human, equally in need, the usual social hierarchies simply collapse. The barrister and the student and the retired teacher are all equally tired, equally uncertain about the next stretch of path, equally relieved when they find what they're looking for. That relief, knowing where the next water fountain is, whether the cafe 2 kilometers ahead is open, whether there are still beds at the albergue, is one of the small practical gifts that can lift an enormous amount of mental weight from the day. Many pilgrims use WeCamino's Places Finder for exactly this, locating water points, pharmacies, cafes, and albergues in real time as they walk, so that one layer of uncertainty is removed and whatever energy remains can go toward the walk itself and the people walking beside you. Because here is what John Cacioppo at the University of Chicago found after decades of research into human connection and loneliness. The single greatest predictor of deep human trust is not the time you have spent with someone. It is the intensity of the experience you have shared, not how long you have known them, how much you have been through together. On the Camino, you go through a great deal together, in a very short amount of time. So why don't we feel this at home? Why don't we trust the people we pass every day on the street, the ones we share a building with, the ones who work in the same office? Because the conditions that produce rapid trust on the Camino are almost entirely absent from ordinary life. At home, we have no shared vulnerability. We have private cars and private schedules and private offices. We almost never synchronize our movement with strangers. We almost never expose our physical struggle and uncertainty to people we don't already know deeply. We maintain the performance because the performance is rewarded. The result is a social environment where trust builds slowly, defensively, over years of carefully managed and mutually monitored interaction. We reveal ourselves in small increments. We test people before we let them in. We hold back until we are certain it is safe not to. The Camino removes all of that architecture. In a single day of walking together, your body reveals what would normally take years to disclose. Your struggle is visible. Your need is real. The person beside you witnesses all of it and keeps walking with you anyway. That is the neurological equivalent of a decade of trust building happening in a single afternoon on a stone path. Your pack is back on your shoulders now. The stranger who held it has become something else. Not quite a word for it in most languages. A fellow pilgrim. Someone who has seen your face when it hurt and didn't look away. At home, you lock your car. You don't make eye contact on the train. You keep your bag on your chair and your trust somewhere safe. But on a trail in northern Spain, your brain ran one of the most sophisticated social calculations it is capable of. It measured shared vulnerability and synchronized movement and the complete absence of performance. It processed everything it knows about what makes a person safe to trust. And it came back with one answer: trust them. And you were right.